Okay, so today we have a very interesting subject, which is AI and God. So it's a very interesting time that we're living in. There's a Chinese curse. We should live in interesting times. So the first thing we have to understand is that life is great. Never been better, and it's only going to get better because life is organized by Shem. And the first thing that's to understand is that all human progress is a godly thing. So it's not random that we have computers and we have the internet and AI is also part of Hashem. Everything comes from Hashem. The Rebbe says that there's a famous uh, a prophecy in the Kabbalah that approximately the year 1840, Hashem will open the floodgates of wisdom of above and below, and they'll converge in anticipation of Mashiach. So all of technology was predicted. In fact, there were tzaddikim that used electricity hundreds of years ago. These are not really new things. They're just the understandings of things that God made in the world. So, we're not such geniuses. Like if we discovered DNA, it doesn't mean we're such geniuses. At certain points in time, Hashem revealed to us what was going on forever. All these things are natural things that God made and that we are experiencing. So the very first thing we have to understand is that the world progresses. The prediction of Kabbalah was that that in the year approximately 1840, God will open the floodgates of wisdom of above and below and will converge in anticipation of Mashiach. And that's a very important statement. They will converge. So in other words, it's not that Kabbalah and science are going in different directions. They're actually coming from two separate directions and coming to the same point. So everything is really leading to the same point. Everything's leading to redemption. So the only question of life is how is everything part of redemption? And once you understand it's part of redemption, then you don't see it as separate. The Rebbe says anxiety comes from when people have separation in their psyche. So if everything I do, if the spiritual world and the physical world, and that's like the whole debate between science and God, or people that think that there's a debate, because they're separating these things. The Rebbe says really science and God can't be separated. One person made the two of them. So they're complementary forces, but you just have to understand how things complement each other. And once you understand that, then like the many ingredients become part of the food as opposed to, they're competing elements. So where's the world heading to? We know the world is heading to the entire purpose of life will be to know Hashem. So once we understand that life is heading to a point in which we know, which basically, not only we know Hashem, but the whole goal of reality is the knowledge of God, right? So Hashem is infinite. That means we can all learn more, we can all grow more. And we're just reaching this point where we're allowing a combination of the infinite and the finite to coexist. And that's really what Mashiach is. That's what the point that we can achieve now, and that's the goal of life. So in order for this to occur, there has to be many breakthroughs in development, in technological development, which already have happened and are going to continue to happen. I mentioned before this guy, and he has a JewsOnFire.org, Baruch Ruman, amazing near-death experience. And he kind of saw the world as in the times of Mashiach. And one of the things that he said is that the technology will be so great that we're going to have everything we need. And so we're already living a time where the average middle-class person, to be fair, within Western countries where the economies are better, is living on a standard that was unimaginable. The idea that you can go in, I remember this guy, very smart guy, Gedalia in our city, in Kansas City. So he said there was a lady that came from Russia, and she walked into the supermarket in America, and she fainted. Right? I remember when the Jews came out of Russia, and these kids came to my yeshiva in London, and basically, what happened was that we took them to this like what we call it a makolet, the tiniest, like the little grocer, tiny little grocer. They couldn't believe what was on the shelf. Because in Russia, you had radishes, maybe bread, milk if you're lucky, right? So the abundance that we have, the idea that you could, my grandmother, when she was leaving Russia, Shila Shifra, so when she was leaving, literally she was in Germany because they escaped out of Russia, and she was deciding where she was going to go. So this was the question she had to Binyamin Grodetsky. She said to him, so is there farina? Farina is like the porridge in America. The farina in America, she had 3 kids. She wanted to feed her kids. So she says, in America, nobody eats farina. They're afraid that they're going to get fat. So she said, is there bread in America? So he said, no, bread, no one eats bread. They're afraid of getting fat. She says, I'm going to America. So, I mean, this is the kind of reality that people were dealing with. Like, how do I feed my kids bread? And this is how people were for thousands of years. And now it's like this food and this thing. It's like now we're living in a world like where the choices are like already Mashiach choice. How to eat healthier and all these kinds of things. So it's not to discount. Of course, there are unfortunately people that need physical and emotional and financial help. No question about it. But for many, 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 many hundreds of millions of people, maybe even billions, there is, they're living lives of and this is really where the whole AI thing comes in. What matters today is basically the choices that we make of how to live our life. Because once upon a time, like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that people basic needs were, safety and food, and they had to spend their lives on these needs, and they were lucky if they had it. Today, our basic needs are, I shouldn't say our basic needs. Today, many people have the basic needs met, although there are also many people that have psychological needs that are not being met. But many of those things, they can meet them if they make basically this choice, the right choice, which is to focus on living in the time from the Shia, which is that the entire purpose of my life is to serve Hashem. Because obviously, if my desire, because a soul says I forgot where, but I think the Torah calls the soul sometimes a desire, because that's the essence of a human being. If a person doesn't have desire, they're nothing. So a soul is desire. But if I have contradictory desire, then I have a problem, right? If one part of me is going to China or the other part is going to America, I'm in different locations, then I've got an issue. So the point is that if you have the right desire, then everything else falls into place. So right now we're already in Mashiach times, or many people are in Mashiach times, that they have the basic needs met. And so the challenge of life is to stay focused on what the purpose of life is, which is to serve Hashem. And as soon as we do that, then everything else falls into line, because everything else is part of my program. We have a shtickle doctor with us. So there are people that go to Dr. Albert Schweitzer and other people that go to Africa, people that could be millionaires, be very affluent, and they'll go to a little village somewhere and just give out free medicine, right? Because they have a purpose and they have a goal, and they're missionaries. So there are people that go around the world. I heard that Rebbe kind of said that like we could almost learn from the missionaries how they take they don't care about themselves, and definitely Rebbe used the example of the Peace Corps, people that are going to help others. And it's that purpose in life that's so great to them that everything else is okay. So it shows that as long as we know that I'm here to serve Hashem, that purpose in life is strong enough to give me the pleasure and the joy in life that everything else is going to work out. So the point is that all of what we have in this world, as long as it doesn't become a distraction to us, And that's really the great challenge of technology. I was teaching someone today, and I said, one of the key things today is don't get distracted. Because it's so easy to, like in the olden days, even philosophically, you had a couple of choices. I don't know, the guy's going to be secular, he's going to be religious, and if he's religious, he had three options. Just like, it wasn't so complicated. I remember I taught in university. I spoke to a friend of mine, a psychiatrist. I said, the guys look okay, but the girls look something's wrong. So he said to me, they have too many options. Right? If the girl in the olden days knew she's here to be a mother and a wife, it's like simple. And even there are many girls that today have that desire. They're healthy people. Psychologically, they're healthy. Why? Because they have a goal and they're focused on the goal. And as long as a person, I'm not saying that's the only option, I'm just giving an example from a psychological point of view. If you have a goal and you know what your goal is, everything else is fine. But if you're getting pulled in 1,000 different directions, then you got a big problem. So a person has to be very, very clear that they have one goal. And the goal is to serve Hashem. Excuse me for 1 second. One second.
Even procrastination, just on the internet. And if you think it's relevant, I'm going to learn quantum dynamics.
Yeah, right.
Psychoneuroimmunology. That you're absolutely easily, you could dive into that pool and swim for a little while.
Right, yeah.
But can you utilize it to serve it?
Oh, very good point. Meaning today, even the intellectual realm, and even if it's true, is a rabbit hole. Because you can go into any field and spend the rest of your life in that field. And again, the question is this: can I use this in the service of Shem? Does this make me and the world a better place? Because if it doesn't make you and the world a better place, then there's no reason. Now, if it can make you and the world a better place, there's a reason to dive into it. And certainly when you talk about movies and entertainment, and certainly the media, which is negative, all of that stuff, it not only doesn't make the world a better place, it makes the world a worse place. Because it gives you bad values and it gives you anxiety and depression, as we see. And so today, it's such a gift that we have, and then to show even the gift of AI. Because I like it whenever I was kind of teaching somebody who came up with the idea of like marriage and stuff like that. So I basically kind of put into ChatGPT, what's the Rambam's view on marriage? Well, and then I did what's the Rebbe's advice for it was unbelievable what came up. It was like a summary of the Rambam on marriage and summary of the Rebbe. It's like unbelievable.
And you do search?
There's something called AI.
Yeah, of course. You use
it's called ChatGPT.
I got it.
Yeah. So I just put in what is the Rebbe's advice for marriage,
Amazing, right?
And it gives you because I know a little bit about the Rebbe's advice. It gives you a beautiful description of the Rebbe's advice for marriage. Right. But the point that I'm bringing out is what's the look, everything in the world. So there's no question you're bringing up, is it true or is it not? So it's not 100% true. But the point is that yeah, but when you say, give me what the Rebbe said, so it will collect Lubavitcher Rebbe. It's just, all it is a computer. It's just math. Collecting what the Rebbe says on marriage. That the point is this: where is this all leading to, and what's the goal, and what can we learn, and is it good or is it bad, right? And so first of all, AI really, like all technology, depends on the user, and so the more powerful a technology is, the better it is and the worse it is. So AI has a tremendous capacity to bring Mashiach. In other words, if we use it for good things and we use it to solve the world's problem and even to study Torah if it's accurate or to the extent that it is, then it's a good thing. But on the other hand, it can be used for terrible things. And therefore, the people that invent this stuff have a tremendous responsibility. Like Einstein invented nuclear weapons. And he said that he would have been better had he become a watchmaker than a physicist. Because when he, yeah, Because when you realize that it's not the bomb that blows it, but it's the human heart, which he realized can be very bad, he said he deeply regretted it, right? And there's a whole bunch of scientists, you could look at it, called the Atomic Bulletin, where they have this clock of like how, anyway, so the point is that the scientists that create the atomic weapons feel tremendous responsibility and guilt for creating them. So again, in the end of the day, technology is like a hammer. It just depends on the user. AI is ultimately, it's just technology. It doesn't have really a brain. As a cousin of mine that works, he actually developed Abad.org and he works in AI. And he says, you can pull the plug on it, right? Its brain is gone in 1 second. The point is AI, like anything in the world, and truth be told, while we're on the subject, the world is guilty, very, very guilty of the American government in particular of releasing irresponsibly the internet. So, for example, I have a friend who, yeah, meaning, in other words, I'll give you an example, right? So I have a friend that very bright guy, and he wanted to take off videos from the internet. This is what he said, that this branch of Islam, I don't know, they call it a spiritual branch. Actually, he said they're very sadistic and they believe in like torturing people to death, part of jihad. They had these terrible videos. And so he contacted all these different organizations that had the videos on. He's like, you got to take this off. It's not okay. And they all took it off except for one organization, the U.S. government. The U.S. government said, no, freedom of speech. So in other words, we're finding that if the government created the internet and they own it, they have a responsibility that there shouldn't be pornography, there shouldn't be hate. People are not, I'm free to stand on my street corner, but the internet belongs to the U.S. government. And if it belongs to the U.S. government, they have a responsibility to not allow things that are bad on the internet. Very simple. And the truth is that the government doesn't, if the U.S. government doesn't, every state can regulate what's going on in their state. So they should be banning the evil of the internet. Because again, it's just like publishing a book. You wouldn't publish this stuff and put it out in the public space. So why would you put it on the internet if evil works? So there is a very strong stance that technology is a tool and you have a responsibility. And in fact, it's the people like Facebook that allow evil on their platform, from Hashem's perspective, for profit, from God's perspective, I hate to quote Karl Marx, but Karl Marx says the capitalist is the one who sells the hangman the noose that hangs him. In other words, capitalism unchecked, which we all struggle with this, but anything that is going to be for profit and you're not judging yourself if this is going to be harmful or beneficial. So that's the key, that technology. And there are people that have come out, from Facebook and they're like, have tremendous regret and guilt of the different, because they have smart algorithms. They know how to scam people into looking at their sites and stuff like that. I remember when I started on Facebook, I would get these like little ads, like somebody like there thinks you're a moron. And like they were tricking people through being like, through shame, engaged. But it's like really bad things. I think they became a little bit better. But as they started, they were just using all these kind of tools. Go ahead. Yeah, okay, maybe not. But the point is that there's a responsibility, and from the perspective of truth, everybody's responsible for their actions. So you can't say, I'm going to sell poison to a minor. No, it doesn't work like that. A person is responsible for that. So basically, on a very, very fundamental level, what are we looking at? What are we dealing with? What is the meaning of all of this? So we're looking at a tool. We're looking at a tool. Now, we have a responsibility to use tools in a good way. Unfortunately, many, many people, if you're motive, I remember looking at this documentary on Facebook. I was on the plane, they give you movies, documentaries. So it was a very interesting documentary on Facebook. And one guy said a very deep point. He says, ultimately, who owns Facebook? So people would say, Mark Zuckerberg. He says, no. The advertisers. Because who runs Facebook? Without advertising, Facebook is down in one day. So who really owns and runs Facebook? The advertisers. Now, what do advertisers want? Advertising clicks. And that's why Google and Facebook, all these companies are guilty of not, if they're allowing anybody to advertise on their platform. So that is evil, because that's allowing, somebody selling snake oil, they're making money, right? So unless they have very real ethical boards, and now we know even worse, they've become brainwashed by Obama. So they allow, anti-Semitism. Yeah, but the point that I'm saying is this: they allow anti-Semitism, but you can't be a conservative show. I mean, this is like real insanity of their choice of what they're allowing. So they have the capacity to take things off. So why don't you take off anti-Semitism? What's your thought on that? Anyway, let's get back to the subject. The subject at hand, where is it leading to? And this is the real truth of the whole subject. Because ultimately, the world is run by Hashem. So where is everything heading to? And where it's really heading to, because ultimately Hashem runs the world, so it's all good, is an amazing place. Because it's leading to a point where the only preoccupation of the world will be the service of Hashem. Because everything in the world, because all the gods of the world are falling apart. It says before Mashiach comes, we'll say, Ein lanu lishan elo Avinu shebashamayim. We have nobody to rely on but our Father in heaven. So, us growing up, we're a little bit older. So what happened was we saw the world, there's the banking system, and there's the accounting system, and the medical system, and the government system, and we had a lot of trust in these systems, right?
The list goes on.
Yeah, the list goes on. But what we spy now is any system that's run by man is somewhat corrupt, without a shadow of a doubt. So it's leading, it's like subconsciously what's going on in the world is that on one hand, Hashem is developing this technology, and in a sense, it's developing unchecked. But what it's going to be doing, and I have a friend that friendly with these people, so everybody's heard, I forgot the guy's name, he's like a big guru, or people pay a bit, and people pay like $80,000 to go to his convention, fortunes, and he has billionaires speaking. These are the guys that are making the technology and the company. They say this was already 5 years ago. They were saying in 5-10 years, you'll be able to think about being somewhere, be there, everything will be available. So in a very short period of time, live lives where literally the only thing you're going to have to do is say, which Mimer of Siddur do I study today? And for me, that's a beautiful life, that we're always going to have something, the spiritual world. Rebbe, one of the 12 psukim is Yodaitim Atzasatam. Hashem makes the world such a way that you have to put in effort. But it won't be that you'll have to put in effort for the physical world. The physical world, everything you need will be available to you. But the spiritual world, you always have to learn another Mimer.
Very sustained.
Right. You're going to have everything you need physically, but spiritually, there will be an amazing world, because spiritually, there's always more to grow, always more to learn. So what's really happening in the world is that the physical is kind of becoming not relevant because it will be so abundant. Eva says that diamonds will be like dust. And when diamonds are like dust, then their value is dust too. People only want a diamond because it's rare. And the only reason people want all this stuff is only because they can't have it. But the moment you can press a button to order anything on the internet. So that's the moment that you'll stop ordering things on the internet, because the last thing you need is to clutter your house. Now there are movements of decluttering. Don't get rid of it, so much stuff. So you have half the world give me stuff because they don't have it, so they want. The other half is how do I make a simpler life? I have a friend that he's a real estate guy, and it's I just want simplicity. I don't want to deal with 10. It's just simple, good for him. Right, minimalism, because the more complex things go, the more simple you want it. But ultimately, the beauty of life is that simplicity also gives you the space for what really matters, which is spirituality, which is growth. And so what we're really heading to is the times of Mashiach. So on one hand, it's going to be manifest in the world, and everybody, obviously, part of, ironically, the two things come together. Why? Because the more you have in the physical world, the less you want it, but the more you want of the spiritual world, because you need to do something with your time. You need to have a meaningful life. And so what's happened in the world is, on one hand, Hashem had like the physical world over here, and he had the spiritual world over here, and we were over here. So as the physical world kind of became more and more abundant, so the less and less we need it, right? When people didn't have, they really needed it desperately. But as the less and less we need it, and the more and more spiritual truths that have come into the world through Chassidus, the more and more we begin to need this. So what happens is we progress from over here, and the spiritual comes here, and then we come over here. And then that's kind of the Mashiach stage, where we literally have a perfect world. It's perfect physically, Shalom Aleichem, and it's perfect, and it's perfect spiritually, but spiritually it's part of the infinity of Hashem. And this is kind of the world that we're heading to. So I think it's very important to understand this, because I think a lot of people have fear of AI. Personally, I don't have any fear of it. Why? Because I'm not saying that there isn't a danger. I'm just saying that Hashem runs this world, and ultimately Hashem is revealing. Look at technology that Hashem revealed, right? So ultimately, yes, it depends on me to use it for good things. There's no question that technology is a lot. On one hand, the internet gives me the capacity to learn entire thing. My wife actually became Chabad through the internet, because she discovered Chabad.org, and she listened to thousands of classes, and that's how she became a religious Jew. And she's not the only one. Many people became religious Jews or converts. Chabad.org receives 2 million unique visitors a week. That means it's the largest Jewish institution by far in the world. 2 million visitors a week. So the internet has tremendous. Now, that's the holiness of the internet. The point is, we have to make choices. That's one level. But beyond that level, there's another level, which is what Hashem is doing is ultimately, and this is very interesting, because when the printing press came out, it started to get printed was basically not nice.
It was a religious book. Or was that five? Let's say it, because it's not it was the new.
Right. So on one hand, but also what happened, what people don't realize, what happened was they were printing not nice things. Eventually they banned that, and then it became something, a positive force. So all the clipper, the moral of Prague says this, all the that the Hashem sometimes uses the clipper to build technology, to build empires. But then, like, what's going to happen when Mashiach comes to Las Vegas? And a big conference saying, that means teaching a minor, 100 million. It's like, okay, but really, right? But the point is, the other thing that when Mashiach comes, there'll be front page news in New York Times, maybe new Chassidus class. Like, what's the stadium going to be like? The Knicks playing? No, the stadium will be like, wow, the Rebbe came to New York. If they trust me, the stadium will be back. So the point is that this technology that's being built, and some of it, yes, being built for profit. We know the Gemara tells us that if not for greed, people wouldn't get married and they wouldn't have houses. So, and this is like an immature mentality that some people have. It's like, oh, it's either totally good or totally bad, like communism. No, profit motive is very good, because you want business people to make money because they create companies. Even right now, I'm living in a... Right. In other words, there's no such thing as a totally pure person. We all have our egos. We all have motives. And that's not the issue. The issue is that Hashem is allowing, let's say, the Klippa to build. It's not all Klippa, some of it's Kedusha as well. Everything's a mix. But the point is, these things that are being built in these tremendous capacities. I recently said about this thing that they used AI to discover the language of plants. So plants every hour emit a sound. And if they're under distress, they need more water or something, and they actually can read that sound. Now imagine now, Israel has these balloons. They go up in like above a field, and they have big data, and they have sense they can analyze. Now imagine you can listen to what the plant is saying. The plant is saying, give me water.
Shade.
Yeah, right. It's unbelievable. So the abundance that can come, and one of the great miracles, or one of the biggest miracles of our time, technology, is because it's information, it's free. Because if you actually had to produce a little plastic thing to do something, it costs money. But information can be replicated free of charge. So you're having this capacity. So all of these things bring us to where? It brings us it's literally bringing us the Mashiach times, because with Mashiach, the Rebbe will walk into the world and walk into the stage, and suddenly all the negative of the technology will fall away, but all the positive of the technology will be there. And so that is the amazing thing that we're in. We're in this time of abundance, of prosperity, of infinite growth. And it's going to allow, the technology is going to give us the capacity to have these lives where we don't have to be burdened by running after money. But what we will have is tremendous, basically, what are we going to do with our lives? And this is something I'll conclude with this. A friend of mine recently, a very bright guy, they have a company. They are a wealth management company, so you got to be pretty intelligent. You're managing 300, the next, $1 million, multi-million-dollar company. So he actually has a line. His line is 5 minutes saves the world. Because you can imagine people calling up, blah, 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 blah. Like, oh yeah, always take 5 minutes. Don't stress out. I'm going to take 5 minutes. I'll think about 5 minutes save the world. That's very important today. There's nothing in the world, there's no text that you get that cannot wait 5 minutes. Very important to realize that. It can always wait 5 minutes. Very good to take your time to think about things, etc. But one of the things when he told me about ChatGPT and I started to think about it, he's like, wow, this is bigger than the Gutenberg press and da-da-da-da. So I realized not only does it not make people irrelevant, it makes people even more relevant. Because one of the big studies they did with the internet when it was coming out, remember it, it's like, oh, wow, this is going to make people come together and actually, it's the opposite. It doesn't make people feel closer to each other. It makes people feel further from each other. Yeah, because instead of doing what we're doing, and as we speak on my own, it was almost like an island. Right. And a human being is a social creature. They say with communication, 10% is the word, 30% is the tone, and 60% is the body language. So in other words, we sitting there get 60% more communication than just a phone call. And a text is 90% less than full communication. So ultimately, people need human interaction. And so what all this stuff shows us is, A, we're not as smart as we like to think we are. But what we are, which is even more valuable, is we are human. And nothing, no machine can replace it. Because that's what people were trying to do. They're trying to make machines, robots, smarter than you. But machines can never do what a human can do. Because a human can love, and a human can give, and a human can grow, and a human can feel, and a human can cry, and a human can help from a place of their heart. But so humans have something that machines can never, ever, ever, ever do. And so, in fact, ironically, it brings us back to, if we have a little bit of sense, brings us back to our, it shows you how you are invaluable. Because all the technology of the world can never hug a person, can never hold a person, can never feel a person. And only you have that capacity to do that. And so it makes us, first of all, internally as well, very precious, because we, again, a machine can't grow. We can grow, we can overcome, we can become better. We have this challenge of our ego and the Yetzer Hara. We can really push ourselves higher and higher. And that's what Hashem wants. The famous story, I've said it before, a young man comes to Rebbe, he says, Rebbe, why is life so tough? The Rebbe said, took out a postcard. He said, how much do you think the postcard's worth? He said, no, $1. The Rebbe said, what if this was a painting? And what would it be worth? He said, it could be worth $1 million. The Rebbe said, which one would be more accurate? He said, the postcard. The Rebbe said, why? Would the postcard more accurate be worth less, 1 million times less than a painting that's less accurate? They didn't know. The Rebbe said, you're paying for the human effort. You're paying this person that worked so hard to develop the art. Right. So Hashem, the Rebbe said, God has postcards and he has paintings. The postcards are angels. Angels don't mess up. I've messed up a lot in my life, but I'm a painting because of the beautiful things that I've done. And that's the thing. It doesn't matter if we mess up. We're paintings. We're God's paintings because we are the ones that overcome. We are the ones that face the challenges and grow from the challenge. We are the diamonds. The diamond's the hardest thing on earth. And how is it made? It's made through the pressure, basically coal, which is pretty dark, and it's pressured at a very It's all pressure and it turns into a diamond. And that's what we are. That's especially now, especially going through Goal, especially all been through some life. You may be more than me. And so it's the very challenges, the pressure that we went through that really pressed us into the knowledge and the wisdom. The computer doesn't have that, because 1 second you can pull the plug, 1 second you can tell it to think something else. It doesn't have a refined personality. It's just a machine. It's nothing. And so we, in the end of the day, are the purpose of creation. And all this technology is leading us to discover our purpose, to be our purpose. And it's really, in a way, it's like the world is like mamish, like heading, it's going very fast paced towards Mashiach. If we just had to use our mind for a second, we'd realize that we're on this journey of kind of separation, that the bad is going to fall away. All of the technology is going to be used for Hashem and the good. Thank you very much. And what's going to happen is that we're all basically going to, like we said in many classes, what is Mashiach? That we're our purpose in life. We all have a part in the greater story, and we all develop that part. We all become a little Rebbe. We all become a source of davening in the world, and it's a beautiful world. Chaim, up.